Hi, I'm Jo from J.H.Leather, and in this video we're talking all about leather creases. Now, as with a lot of tools in the leather industry, there are a lot of different options that you can use to actually add a crease line to your leatherwork, from an attachment in a stitch groove to a full-on electric creaser. Before we move on, I just want to touch on what the creaser does for those of you who are unsure. The leather creaser adds a decorative line to your work, usually between the outer edge and the stitch line. And that is it. It is just a decorative line and it's there for aesthetic purposes only. Now, depending on what you're making, you may not want to add one at all, or you may decide to add one or two crease lines. The decision is yours and it's up to you as to what you want your final piece to look like. Now we know what the creaser does, let's have a look at the different crease options. Now, as I said earlier, there are a variety of different options to choose from. The most basic one being a wooden creaser. Now, these wooden creasers generally have different sizes incorporated into them to allow you to use a variety of sizes for your leatherwork, and you use the center as the guide on the outer part of your leather and then pull the creaser towards you to create your crease line. Now, the wooden creaser is a very affordable way to get a crease line onto your leatherwork. However, there are a couple of downsides. One of them being that you have to use this as a cold creaser, meaning that you're not going to get as permanent a line as some of the other options that we're going to talk about. Another thing to take into account here is that it can be harder to use on more intricate pieces of leather and around corners. The next step up from this would be an attachment that fits into a stitch groove. Now, whilst I don't have that specific attachment here, all the attachments for stitch groove work in a similar manner, where you fit the tip that you need and then you can set how far in from the edge you want it to be with the guide on the side, and you can then pull this all the way around your leather to create your crease line. Now, this option is much more easier to use and control than the wooden one that we just spoke about. However, it does still have the same issue in that it is going to be a cold crease only, so the line's not going to be as permanent as if you were using a hot crease. We now take a step up in the price range as we have a look at the fixed creases. Now, these come in a variety of sizes, usually from 1 to 2.5 millimeters. The heads of these have a slightly offset profile, so you can use the outer edge as your guide when running this around the edge of your leather. One of the main benefits for this tool is that you can actually heat it up to get a more permanent crease. Now, there are a variety of options that you can use when heating, and I personally use a portable hob. Now, if you want to go down that route, just make sure it's not an induction hob, because you might need to use special metals and materials to actually get the hob rings to get hot. If you don't want to use one of those, then there are a couple other options. Where I used to work, we used to use mini flamethrowers, and I've also seen people online using little mini paraffin flames to heat their creases. And like I said, the main benefit of these creases is that you can heat them up for that more permanent crease line. Now, the fixed crease does have a little bit of a steeper learning curve than the other two tools that we have spoken about. However, once you get used to it, they are really nice tools to use and they work really well on a variety of leathers. However, there is a downside to these fixed creases, and that is that they are fixed. So you have to have one in each size range that you think you are going to use or that you're going to need for your leatherwork. Now, another price range up from the fixed crease is my favorite, the adjustable crease. And as you can guess from the name, this is adjustable, so you can use one tool and have a whole host of different crease lines options incorporated into it. As with the fixed crease, the outer edge of this adjustable crease is slightly larger, allowing you to use that as a guide when running it around your leatherwork. You can also heat this up for a more permanent crease line. Now, there is a bit of a learning curve with this creasing iron. However, like I said, it is my favorite and is the one that I would recommend to most crafters. This also has the benefit of being available in a left-handed option for those of you who need one. Moving on now to what could be considered the Ferrari of creasing irons, and that is the electric creaser. Now, this is an all-in-one tool where you set your desired temperature and the machine will heat up and keep your selected tip at that temperature. Now, you can get a whole array of different tips for this electric creaser for creating crease lines, creating grooves, for smoothing down edges of edge paint, as well as using for embossing with or without foils. Now, these are incredibly expensive bits of kit, and I think unless you're going to be doing a lot of leatherwork, you don't necessarily need one. Like I said, I don't actually have one of these tools, and the tool that I use the most is my adjustable creaser, so that is something to consider. I reckon if you're going to be doing a lot, and I mean a lot, of leatherwork and you do a lot of edge painting, then it could be a very good option for you. However, for most of us, the adjustable crease is probably going to be the best option. If you are enjoying this video and would like to learn how to create more leathercraft projects, then I have a whole range of printable PDF pattern packs and durable acrylic templates available for you to purchase via my website jhleather.co.uk, or you can head to the links in the description. So now we know more about the different types of creases, we're going to have a bit of a closer look at the two that I use the most, which are the fixed and the adjustable creasers. As I have said previously, these two tools can take a bit of getting used to. Now you hold both of them the same in the hand like so, and this is going to give you a lot of control over how you use your crease. Now you can use these creases by pulling them towards you or pushing them away from you, and I would suggest whichever you find easiest is going to be the best option for you. You want to make sure the larger outer edge of your tool is pressed against your leather, because we're going to be using that as a guide when we move this tool around our leatherwork. When it comes to the angle of the creaser, on straight edges I like to use mine quite flat, as you can see here. Now when it comes to corners, what I do is actually roll the tool forwards so it's more on the point end, and then I will slowly go around the corner, and I find this gives me a lot more control. Now whilst you are getting used to this creaser, and what I do with my students who are new to leatherwork is we actually practice with this cold. This is going to allow you to get used to the tool before you add the heat element to it. And you can use this on a lot of scrap leather so you can get the feel of how the tool works. One of the questions that I get asked the most is how hot do I heat my creaser? And the answer to that is a very unscientific hot enough. Now I know that's not a very helpful answer, however I don't have time to measure how hot my creaser is every single time I use it. And also it depends on what leather I'm using, because different leathers require the tool to be at different temperatures to get the best crease line. What you can do, and what I still do today, is actually use a scrap piece of leather from the same material that I'm using to create my project, and then I can use that as a guide to see if my creaser is hot enough or too hot. Now if the tool is too hot, what you're going to do is actually burn the leather, and we really don't want that, and you can see what that looks like here. Now if it's too cold, you're not going to get as prominent or as permanent a crease line, however you can just heat it up a little bit more and go over it again. Now a lot of this is going to come down to experience, and the more that you use your tool, the easier it will be to gauge how hot you need that tool to be for use on certain leathers. For example, I know that I need my creaser to be much hotter when using it on a vegetable tanned goat or pigskin than I do for a general vegetable tanned cowhide. Now a couple of quick tips to get the most out of your creasing irons. So when I am using thin leather to create something like a wallet, what I like to do is actually put my leather onto some grey board. And what this does is allow the leather to sink into the grey board when I'm using my creasing iron, and it actually gives a more permanent and more prominent line. Now if you're using your creasing iron and you accidentally slip off your leatherwork, you don't need to panic. What you can do is grab a bone folder and smooth that area back down. And then once smooth, you can go over this once more with your creasing iron, and you're not going to be able to see where you came off. So I hope you have found this video helpful and it's given you a better understanding of what creasing iron is right for you. Now if you did, please give this video a thumbs up to let YouTube know that you enjoyed it, and to help share this with other crafters who might find it interesting. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.